Warning. Before you get bored of this upcoming story, just know the following anecdote has everything to do with the overall thesis. I promise.
There's a term I heard somewhere once. It was, if you pay for something, that thing is the product. If something is free, you are the product. It makes sense, right? So my dad used to use this free app that would collect data about his heart rate. It also collected information about his age, which I'm sure was used as a way to fish for some analytics and data about hearts and ages under the guise of being a helpful app. There's really good money in data collection. The app was helpful, but regardless, the value was provided much more by my father's information than it was by the app's actual features. So what happens when not only do you purchase the product, you also provide all of the value? Do you use the product? Or are you yourself the product? Now you might be asking yourself, what does this have to do with video games? Well... The arguably most popular type of game service that is currently provided is referred to as, well, games as a service. You've probably heard of it, but let's pretend for just a moment that you haven't. What are games as a service? Well, they're essentially a product where the consumer is expected to consistently return to the product and retain attention to the game. And this is conventionally done via long-term, semi-frequent to frequent content updates. Most commonly, this occurs in seasons, usually a roughly 3-month-long content session front-loaded with a bucket of things, typically things such as maps, weapons, and modes, though your mileage may vary. In some cases, these seasons will include additional content updates throughout, whether that's in the form of mid-season refreshes, collaborations, or even just big quality of life updates. The purpose of those things, and the seasons as a whole, and the entire idea of games as a service, is quite simply retention of players. The theory behind that is that the more time a player sticks with a particular game, the more likely they are to invest further into that game, which typically takes the form of purchasing cosmetics from the shop using real money. This is, how should I say this, very successful. What's interesting is, most games out there that operate under the bucket of games as a service actually allow people to play for free. We can call that having your cake and eating it. But some franchises are completely immune to real controversy, and in some cases will have their cake and eat everyone else's too. Take Call of Duty, for example. Now, technically, Call of Duty allows you to play its Battle Royale mode Warzone for free, but that's it. If you want the campaign, the multiplayer, etc., it'll cost you. Not to mention, progression in the Battle Royale mode and the ability to build your loadouts and whatnot is tethered to progression in the game, and purchasing the actual game makes it significantly easier to do so. Now, back in 2019, when Warzone initially launched, the Battle Royale mode for Modern Warfare 2019, Activision did the math. I'm sure some weaselly finance major squeaked a whiteboard in front of Bobby the Gobby's desk and showed him that he had crunched the numbers and they could get away with monetizing Call of Duty while still asking people to pay for everything that your typical free games as a service titles offer. They probably figured this just due to the unending loyalty of the consumers of the franchise. People really like Call of Duty, so Activision wasn't even at risk of abandoning people. They knew their players would continue to invest in Call of Duty every year because they quite literally had never not done so before. But enough about Modern Warfare 2019, let's talk about Modern Warfare 3. Not to be confused with Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 2 2022, Modern Warfare 3 2011, Modern Warfare Remastered, or Modern Warfare 2019. We're talking about Modern Warfare 3 2023. Hopefully that clears it up. Now, we don't know how much Modern Warfare 3 has actually made in revenue, but we do know that 2023 was Activision's 4th best year for revenue ever, missing the peak by a couple of bucks, about 350 million. Who's counting? So while Modern Warfare 3 may not have been the most successful Call of Duty ever, it still made a heap of money. But it's just some dumb game where you turn the corner and shoot the guy, you might say. To which I'd say, the straw man I've created for this line is really fucking stupid. Let's try another one. Okay, you're Cavis Manus Strawman Pithecus, and you've been frozen in the ice for untold millennia, a distant time. the Ancient Gear 2012. Your ice cracks, and suddenly out you burst. You wipe the gamer gunk from your furrowed brow and creep forth from this unfortunate circumstance you found yourself in, only to head to your nearest GameStop. You walk into the store.
Hello, sir. Welcome to GameStop.
I want my favorite game, Call of Duty.
So you're looking for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. It's $70 if you want to buy it.
70? What do you mean games cost 60? 70 just
Not anymore,
fucking rip
sir.
off.
No.
It's a fucking rip off.
No, sir. They're $70 now. Can also sell you the $100 Collector's Vault Edition Extraordinaire.
$100? But it gives you all the map packs and everything. It gives you...
No, sir. It just lets you play as Makarov and Price and Ghost. It also gives you the Battle Pass, 30 tier skips, and 1,100 COD points.
I don't even know what that means. What the fuck are COD points?
COD points are in-game currency. Every game has them nowadays.
But can you buy maps with them? Can you at least get all the maps with those COD points?
No, those
I
come
want all
with
the maps.
Those come with the season.
What the fuck? Why would I pay $30 to not get 24 maps?
I'm with you there, sir. It's just the way they do maps now. I don't have any say in this. I'm just the salesman.
They at least give other stuff, right? I mean, what about upper guys? What about the upper guys? What are those?
Operators are just skins.
But it's a first-person game. Who gives a shit about that?
I don't know, sir. There's some people out there who just like the way they look. By the way, while I'm here, I'm obligated to say this. If you get a Power Up Rewards card for $20, you can get 10%.
I don't want it.
Please. I need to sell you
I'm
this.
trying to buy Call of Duty from this guy. He won't sell it to me.
My manager, he's not looking right now, but
Where's
when
the
he
game?
comes back,
I
he'll
want
kill
Call of
me
Duty.
if I don't at least
Where
sell
is
50
Call of Duty?
copies of this
Where
godforsaken.
Oh boy, I can't wait to play the latest and greatest entry in my single favorite franchise, Call of Duty. These are annoying. Wait. Holy shit, how many gigs? Oh, sweet. Finally! How can I relaunch the game? What? Dude, I literally just restarted it. Finally! I can play my fate. What was that, like the Marvel Cinematic Universe? What is this? How many developers worked on this game? How many fucking cutscenes are there? Oh, I can skip it. Battle Pass, where's the game? Why am I not seeing the game? Is that fucking Snoop Dogg? Why does a video game even need a shop? The shop has an item you can buy that's more expensive than the game? What kind of world did I wake up to? Why is this happening?
Look familiar?
Look familiar? I have no idea who this person is. Or who I am, for that matter. Please help me. But seriously, just put yourself in the shoes of someone from 2012, going from Black Ops 2 to Modern Warfare 3. It's actually insane how radically monetized the franchise has become. And it's not even as simple as just not buying things. Activision has actually spent years training loyal customers to not only come back every year, not only to pay for cosmetics, but also to act as a salesman for the cosmetics as well. Take Tim the Tatman, for example.
Good morning, good evening, Kevin, good afternoon.
A new Call of Duty update drops, and what is the first thing that Tim does? Well, I'd ask you to guess, but it's pretty easy to find out. Let's just go ahead and check out his YouTube channel and see for ourselves. Oh, he's talking about the newest weapon to be put in the game. Tim does actually have the benefit of having a contract with Activision, which means that he gets a kickback anytime people purchase things in the store with his creator code. I'm sure he has a general agreement that includes making content at particular times or streaming updates, etc. as well, but he is certainly happy to do it. To be fair, why shouldn't he be? He's making good money off of playing video games every day. Can you blame him for wanting to? Because I certainly don't. But it's not just him. This Dexerto article of everyone they could find with a creator code indicates that there are 69. If you type nice in my comment section, I am stretching you like that kid in the Johnny Depp Charlie and the Chocolate Factory movie. There are 69 people who have creator codes for Call of Duty, including, let me just check that right. Nickmercs? The same Nickmercs that... interesting. Anyway, having a creator code means that each of these people is incentivized to try and sell people on the microtransactions in the game. And this is because with every bundle they sell, they make money. You're quite literally looking at a list of Call of Duty store salesmen. They're the annoying people that follow you around in Kohl's when you're just trying to find a belt that will fit your fat ass into it. I can find the belts myself, thank you. Please leave me alone. But this means that they have a vested interest in selling the game to you. But how do they do that, you might ask? Well, I mean, did you even look at the thumbnails? Because I mean, anything coming to mind looking at this? Maybe a little cash register.mp3? Maybe a nice cash falling.gif? Or perhaps even a make it rain.mp4? Yeah, I mean, they're selling you the content. It's probably obvious, but I don't think we think out loud about this stuff enough. What's really crazy about it, though, is just how over the top they are about advertising the game and its content. Like, if this were a listing for an actual product, it would probably be considered false advertising just because of how over the top and positively the thumbnail artist has chosen to portray it. Of course, if the item itself wasn't enough to sell you on it, perhaps the half-egg, half-man hybrid would do it. I mean, look at how excited Timothy is about this stuff. You'd think this was the cure for baldness with how expressive he is about it. But I mean, given how long he's been at this, I'd say maybe this isn't the cure for baldness. He still looks like an egg. But there's something far more malicious actually going on here. No, it's actually nothing to do with Tim, nor is it any of these content creators' faults. These are just the guys riding the system while it works for them. And Call of Duty is definitely a good horse to back, given its track record of... let me check my notes here. According to this, it says they always make a shit ton of money. So yeah, probably a good idea to back them. But what's sinister is when you begin to design a product to pay for itself. What do I mean? Well, let's break it down. Call of Duty is a product. If I downloaded Black Ops 2 back in 2012 and played the game, I might recommend it to some friends, sure, so we could play it together. But that's about it. When designing Black Ops 2, I imagine that the dev team sat down and thought, what cool stuff can we let the players do in this game? Which subsequently resulted in some fantastic multiplayer, good zombies, a solid campaign, a really robust emblem maker, and admittedly, a couple of paid cosmetics. They were pretty cheap though, so like, not too bad, maybe about $5. Really, honestly, pretty reasonable, all things considered. I think it's safe to say that the conversation when making Modern Warfare 3 was a bit more like...
Alrighty, campaign guy. How can we make buckets of money with the campaign?
Don't make one. Or we could make the DLC we're making for Modern Warfare 2 just the full game. Pretend that it's the whole game, maybe? That could be good, right?
Campaign guy, I described the things I want to do to you right now, but we've already met our yearly sexual harassment allowance quota within the first week of 2024. Multiplayer guy.
The same thing as Modern Warfare 2, but we, put Snoop Dogg and Nicki Minaj in it. We could bring back the shitty sliding glitch that all the sweaty players want that ruins the game.
I wish I could procreate with myself, because I am simply too good at hiring people to do things for me. Zombies guy.
Yeah. I don't really have anything to offer, so we could just wing it. Like, literally, if you handed me $50, I could probably come up with something better than the last zombies.
I am going to kiss you on the mouth right now.
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt. Sir, we just got our 29th sexual harassment lawsuit filed against us. Can you avoid saying literally anything suggestive, please?
Fine. Where's the women's fridge? I need something to drink. Are we done here? Anything from the Warzone guy?
Looks like, I think he's dead.
But it's not a matter of simply cutting costs or delivering a product. Monetization actually goes so much deeper than that. While Call of Duty applies some truly egregious monetization, they do something that I believe is actually far worse. And to explain that, we're gonna go back in time. Whoa! Have you ever farmed before? I don't really give a shit if you farmed before. But have you ever farmed virtually? Okay, I'm gonna be honest, I don't really give a shit if you farmed virtually either. Chances are you have, though. No, not that one. No, definitely not that one either. I'm talking about the original farming game. This game didn't require you to pay a dime. It came out way back in 2009. If you're watching this and you don't know how to type on a flip phone, it was before your time. I'm talking, of course, about Farmville. I know, PTSD for some of the older members of the audience, but don't worry. Auntie Wendy can't bother you to water her plants anymore. She's too busy ranting about fluoride in the drinking water and how nobody under 30 could send a fax to save their lives, which admittedly is true, but who the hell faxes anymore, Wendy? Come on, you and I both know smartphones exist, and you are currently shrimped over that screen as we speak, shriveling into a husk, wondering when JFK is coming back from the dead. Farmville was wildly ahead of its time because it pretty much predated all conventional mobile games. In some ways, it was the original mobile game. But it's just some stupid free-to-play farming game. How in the hell does it make money, you might ask? Well, look no further than former Xbox boss Don Matrick to explain it to you.
Fortunately, we have a product for people. It's called Xbox 360.
That's the wrong clip, guys. What the hell? Come on. Oh. He only joined Zynga after ruining Xbox's public image? The game didn't cost anything. It wasn't a console game, nor a PC game. In fact, it came for free on your web browser. You need look no further than That website was all that you needed to access this quaint little title. If there's one thing we know about Facebook, it's that nothing is ever truly free. Now, the whole idea behind Farmville was really simple. You own a farm, and that's it. That's the whole game. No, like seriously, you plant some plants sometimes and water them. I don't even really know. I didn't play it, but pretty sure that's about it. Sound boring? It is. Here's the crazy part. Everyone fucking loved it. I didn't. I furrowed my brow and folded my arms because I played real games like Halo and Mario. I shit you not. Anyone that wasn't a regular gamer was absolutely fawning over this. It was the game for people who didn't play games. Oh, what's that, Mom? You want me to water your plants in Farmville? How about you give me back my PSP you took back from me for backtalking? I mean, like, everyone was playing it. That was the worst part about it. If you didn't play Farmville, you couldn't escape from it if you wanted to. Your Facebook messages would just be a sea of requests from people wanting you to water their plants or whatever the hell you were supposed to do in that game. Interestingly enough, this game actually sort of pioneered time gating. In 2009, this little game would let you skip time and progress faster by paying real money. I remember people thinking it was kind of ridiculous at the time. And yet the first Farmville game actually managed to rake in over $1 billion in revenue. And now today, that sounds probably pretty in line with basically any big launch that happens. But this was 2009. That is not nothing for 2009. That is a runaway hit. But it wasn't even the fact that you could pay money to skip time that generated revenue. I mean, in a literal and direct sense, it actually was, but that's not the important part. The important part was the social aspect of the game. It tapped into this tribalistic need to participate and actively enticed you to advertise it to your friends by asking them to water your plants for you. Think about it for a minute. If you didn't want to pay real money, Farmville would give you an alternate path. Advertise the game to as many of your friends as possible, and you will be rewarded for it. And well, I hate to throw Auntie Wendy under the bus again, but gee willikers, Wendy, you sure did message a lot of people about playing Farmville, and that's all it takes. One Aunt Wendy suddenly reaching a critical moment in the game is now heavily incentivized to advertise the game to all of her friends to be able to keep progressing and adding to her farm. What happens as a result? Aunt Wendy's friends, who for the purposes of not having to Photoshop in 8,000 unique older women, were also Aunt Wendy. Suddenly, one Aunt Wendy advertising the game to her 30 Facebook friends leads to, say, 3 more Aunt Wendys deciding to play the game, and aw shucks, looks like they also hit a wall and also need to water their plants, or need to progress. So what do those Aunt Wendys do? They do what needs to be done, and suddenly 4 Aunt Wendys are messaging their collective 100 friends, which conservatively leads to 12 Aunt Wendys playing and messaging their 500 friends, which whatever. It eventually leads to an army of Aunt Wendys ready to organize a Farmville Farmville revolution, powered by the socks they bought you that you literally never asked for Christmas. No, seriously, I don't want socks for Christmas. Nobody wants socks for Christmas. Who the hell, as a person under the age of 13, thinks to themselves, yeah, I think I could settle for some socks for Christmas. That'd be great. Nobody thinks that. Why does this matter? Well, I guess I'll just cut to the chase. This is the thesis of the video. Zynga, the parent company of Farmville, in a rather genius move, figured out that the #1 marketing tool isn't some blockbuster marketing campaign. It's not pre-order bonuses. Hell, it's not even the product. The product is like the least important part of the process here. The #1 marketing tool is the players. You, me. The best part about it is it's totally free to get people to market your game. What's fascinating when you begin to look at what the actual value of Farmville was is that really the revenue generated from its purchases was only half of the story. They wielded something that had honestly probably just as much value, if not more. You see, while it seems innocuous enough to just send friends messages soliciting farmer favors, farmersonly.com guys, just saying, the unspoken fact of Farmville was that it was actually really interested in its players. Not in the I want to know how to improve the game kind of way, but in a more seedy data collecty way. How absolutely Facebook of them. I wish I was exaggerating actually, but the reality is that Facebook was very much along for the ride of Farmville. And whoo boy, were they watching closely. Not carefully though, don't get that mistaken. In fact, they actually accidentally leaked a ton of data all the way back in 2010 that disclosed information about players' Facebook profiles associated with their Farmville information, which admittedly was public information regardless, but nonetheless, it was probably a bit embarrassing being outed as a Farmville freak if you had tried to keep it on the down low. Clearly, it was serious enough to warrant a stern reaction from Facebook, who responded by saying, as reported in the Escapist article, most of the applications involved in the breach were transmitting information unintentionally, and that's just because of the technical details of how browsers work. They also said that press reports have exaggerated the implications of sharing a UID. Nonetheless, they did suspend several apps over the weekend for violating those privacy policies, which is an interesting move considering the line I just read implies that there wasn't really any wrongdoing on Facebook's behalf, so why would you do any punitive actions? But what's doubly weird is that despite eliciting a response from Facebook, Farmville, who at the time had roughly 59 million users, faced no consequences whatsoever and didn't have their services disabled at all. So the disturbing reality about Farmville is that while you were farming crops, Facebook and Zynga were farming you. Except probably like nobody watching this actually played Farmville, much less uses Facebook today. And if you did, maybe take your fiber pills. But Facebook sold your data without your permission. That's actually true. They sold it and you probably never even knew it. The worst part is Zynga bought data from Facebook and continued to use it to figure out user habits and how to further juice you for coins. In fact, the very same data that Zynga was using was non-consensually harvested data collected by Facebook's API and sold without users' permission. And then that data was sold to, who knows really, probably nobody too interesting, honestly. Oh, well, except for Cambridge Analytica. You know, the ones that collected millions of people's data from Facebook without anyone's consent. The ones that then used that data to target said people with political ads to try and interfere with the 2016 election and manipulate the election's results. Oh, and speaking of using your Farmville data without your permission, someone else that did that was Obama. But enough about farming people, I mean Farmville. Because where Farmville sort of incentivized you to get your friends playing the game and potentially advertising it to their friends, modern gaming has taken it a significant step further. Fortnite Battle Royale, or as everyone literally everywhere knows it, Fortnite. This game was really out of left field. Its existence was built from the ashes of a failed PvE game mode, and really, the Battle Royale component was a complete afterthought. Sort of a last-ditch effort to try and turn a solid profit over the cost of development of its original mode. Has it been successful? I'm honestly not going to give you the satisfaction of providing an answer or a source for that. If you somehow are not actually aware of Fortnite's success, you have just clearly not been paying attention. Frankly, why are you watching this video? Because you're probably over the age of 60. I actually happen to know someone that spent a crap ton of money on Fortnite. They've been actually playing since the PvE mode and got some of the first skins in the BR mode when it launched and have played it off and on quite a bit since its release. This person has easily spent like $400 on the game. Honestly, maybe even more. Of course I know this person.
He's me.
I'm almost 30 years old and I like playing Fortnite. So what? Big deal. Shut up. But also, Check out all these sick skins I have, and look how many harvesting tools I have. Look at my emotes, my back bling, and but why have I done all of that? Purchasing all of this stuff? Well, peer pressure. No, seriously. Okay, not all of it was peer pressure, but a good chunk of it was. I have made entire purchases in games solely on the basis that I want to have cool stuff to show to my friends, and frankly, the way that social circles work, that totally makes sense. But where Fortnite, Apex Legends, Warzone, etc. differ from Farmville is in their downright cantankerous methods of applying social pressure. You see, cosmetics in games have slowly gotten more and more expensive, and it's not because of inflation. Just look at inflation. Even if you factor in the yearly increase being at the rate it is compared to 10 years ago when we were either getting cosmetics completely for free or we're paying a very small amount for a large bucket of cosmetics, usually co-opted with a path to earning it in-game, now we live with the hard paywall, usually about $20 per character skin. All of Modern Warfare 3's camos are locked behind bundles, and they're usually on the lower end, about $20 per bundle. And the camos you get within the bundles only work for the select weapons within that bundle. So you basically have to hope that a good bundle releases with a camo for a weapon that you like. Comparatively, Black Ops 2 in 2012 allowed you to purchase any DLC camo for only $2, and that camo would work for any customizable item in that game. But if you're Valorant, we're talking $100 for a bundle that gives skins for most of the weapons. $100. Yes, an unnecessary element of games has actually increased in price, and it has nothing to do with inflation. Because necessity isn't even involved in an emotional choice, you feel that you need these items because of the social pressure that being a have-not provides. But we're kidding ourselves if we think this isn't intentional. This isn't an accident. It's not even a coincidence. It's very much the entire idea behind purchasable items in games. In this sense, once again, the player is providing the developer a service. We as players encourage those around us to make purchases. It's sort of like Aunt Wendy in Farmville, but instead, she's pointing a gun at you and saying, "If you don't buy the Peter Griffin skin, you're a little bitch." Now, while I don't necessarily take issue with the monetization explicitly, cosmetics being as expensive as they are is ridiculous, and the value I'm willing to provide a game is minimal, but can be tweaked just a bit with the right context. I'm also almost 30 years old. I've lived in a world where games as a service has only had a name for maybe a sixth of that, if that. I have a natural resistance to things being sold to me in video games because I personally remember a time where every fucking game didn't have a shop. I also really don't spend money on other games. Even with Fortnite, I really don't buy skins anymore. Sometimes I slip. But you know what? I'm a grown-ass adult. If I want to make stupid decisions, it is my God-given right as a red-blooded American to do so. But the same can't be said for children. Children cannot make fully informed decisions based on rationality because they are, by definition, underdeveloped. They're still growing, and their brains aren't even fully formed. But here we are, engaging in practices that entice children to play games, and on top of that, to spend money. Money they don't even really have yet.
Daddy, can I get the Billie Eilish skin in Fortnite?
No, son. As I've told you, if you want Fortnite money, you have to go work in the mines for a week.
Why do you always make me work in the mines, Daddy?
Why, you ask me? Well, it's because I'm the bad guy.
Duh.
It's a really disgusting concept, honestly. The idea that children are being trained to make useless purchases in video games with items that quite literally have no value. But there is actual evidence that developers market games towards kids and try and get them to spend money, especially when you consider that games like Fortnite are specifically marketed toward kids. But it's even worse than that, because all of that peer pressure I used as a justification for my purchases, well, kids and teens aren't exactly known for being more socially cautious and conscientious than adults are. And as it turns out, not only do kids face peer pressure over their in-game cosmetics, some kids actually get bullied for not having cosmetics in Fortnite.
Hey dude, did you hear? Timmy can't afford the Family Guy chicken skin. Wow. What a loser. He probably doesn't even have the battle pass. Let's go emote on him. I bet he doesn't even have any emotes. What a freak. Imagine being poor and not being able to emote. Cringe. Anyway, see you later, dork.
This Kotaku article actually cites a study done by Oslo Metropolitan Study that found that the skins that children roughly between the ages of 10 to 15 choose to wear in games such as Fortnite, FIFA, and Warzone have a quote-unquote crucial role in how other kids treat them. In an interview Kotaku conducted with said researchers in Oslo, they said, The pressure to fit in resembles what is already taking place in other contexts, but takes on new forms. Some children might end up feeling excluded if they lack the resources, for example, Wi-Fi, gaming equipment, in-game currency, to play with their friends, or might get picked on based on what skin they're wearing. What's really off-putting to think about is Fortnite is arguably the most successful live service game. It's huge. I mean, in 2023, it had record growth. And according to this article by Epic Games themselves, they attracted 150 million new users to Fortnite just in 2023. That is literally its best year yet. But a lot of its success derives from its target audiences. And if we look at Epic Games user data, supposedly their largest demographic of players is between the ages of 18 to 24, with a whopping 62.7% of users being within that age range, according to their data. But this is the internet we're talking about. So naturally, I'm very suspicious of this information. But not on Epic Games' behalf. There's probably nothing untoward going on with their data in this case. But we've all been young and have gotten the "you must be 18 to enter this site" message before, usually just once. Because after the first time that happens, you begin to lie about your age in everything you do on the internet, until you reach adulthood, of course. So in actuality, I think quite a large chunk of this 62.7% of users is actually underage. But we don't deal in hypotheticals and hyperbole, except for when we do, but that doesn't count. It just so happens that last year, SurveyMonkey conducted a poll with teens that asked how many of them knew of Fortnite, to which 61% responded saying that they know about it. That is only 12% less than know about Snapchat and 13% less than know about Instagram. Those are entire social media apps, and Fortnite is within striking distance of those numbers. But even more interesting, 50% of teens polled said that the game helps them keep up with their friends. It not only has user numbers almost on the level of social media apps, it basically is a social media app. But this survey also tells us that we do have a ton of underage people playing Fortnite. Without a doubt. I happen to know from actual family members that people under the age of 18 are purchasing cosmetics in Fortnite. Is it really that shocking? Probably not. But what is shocking is how the game is clearly marketed toward children and teens. I think it's important for me to mention, I don't have an issue with children and teens playing Fortnite. I really don't. The game itself and really the content itself is fine. But enticing children to spend money when they aren't even fully developed is just plain wrong. The amount of ads thrown into people's faces about the latest and greatest skin, not to mention just seeing them in the game, seeing other players emote on you, adds to that social pressure of your friends knowing what skins you wear and the need to keep having newer ones. And suddenly, you end up with an extremely exploitative system that actively encourages children to spend money buying skins, flaunting them, and on top of that, pressuring their friends to purchase them as well. That's also how you end up with situations like this mother that a local news company in Australia, 7 News, did a story about. This woman's son spent $20,000 in microtransactions on Fortnite, along with some donations to some streamers. She lost her entire life savings in just 17 days, and she won't be getting any of that money back. And as if to punch me in the face with exactly what I'm trying to explain, I recently discovered this class action lawsuit filed against Epic Games just a few months ago. It claims that they have been violating COPPA laws by collecting data on users under the age of 13 without any verified parental consent. Do note that no decisions have been made and no actions as a result have been taken from this lawsuit. So, grain of salt for that. Not just players as a service, children as a service. Which all sounds pretty bad, right? But it's not quite on the level of the way Activision has an army of influencers out there peddling every Call of Duty update. But to be honest, Fortnite does the exact same thing, even down to the creator codes. Apex is a similar situation as well. In reality, the most popular multiplayer games all have something like this to an extent. It's actually so normal at this point, it would be strange if there weren't people clickbaiting every update for a major multiplayer game. But where does all of this end? Like, is there a point where we stop and say enough? How far do they have to go before we say they've gone too far? who's to say that eventually kids themselves won't also be exploited as advertisements for games? There are currently kidfluencers out there right now who already make tons of money on content. Some of them play games on their channels. What if a child decided to be a gaming content creator and started marketing games to people in their content? Is that legal? Can a person that's underage actually do brand deals? Well, according to IZEA, a publicly traded talent organization, you pretty much can. But surely this situation couldn't be exploited any further than a child making content for a filthy rich company, could it? It'd surely benefit the child in question in some way, right? Well, it turns out that Cosmopolitan asked this exact same question, and it happens that the answer is a resounding, I don't know, because in the US, there is actually no law against using children as free advertising so long as it occurs within a household. That's it. The only legal distinction in child labor laws is that if you're at home, you're not being exploited.
Okay, Timmy. You can come back from the mines now.
But funnily enough, this doesn't obligate children to be compensated either. In fact, according to the same Cosmopolitan article, in the entire US, there is only a single state that protects child content creators. If you're a child content creator and you live anywhere except for Illinois, what happens with the money that you earned is entirely up to your parents' discretion.
Holy. Okay, Timmy, here's the deal. You get to make videos all day. Get to work. I need 5 videos of you doing Fortnite emotes, and I need them compatible with Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube.
And then I get the Fortnite skin.
What a silly little fable I've told with these little stories. They keep popping up. Thankfully, that last bit isn't even slightly rooted in reality. Right? Tell that to Vanessa. The very same Cosmopolitan article previously referenced interviewed this child of an influencer who was regularly featured in her mother's content. She didn't actually disclose her real name so as to remain anonymous, probably so the content creator wouldn't be exposed. This person recounts nights where she would stay up late recording videos over and over again with her mother, trying to get everything right. It actually got so bad for her that she didn't even feel like her family was even family. More so, they felt like coworkers. Surely, she must have been compensated though, right? Just listen to this quote. My mom never led me to think there would be anything. She would continually remind me that the money she was getting from the blog or sponsorships was going toward us anyway through basic needs, and that should be enough. Only in her 20s has she really reflected on her past and realized just how much that she was exploited. I mean, when she was going through changes, her mother actually used her for content. Even worse, she used her to sell sanitary pads. That's evil. That is evil. On a somewhat bright side, a recent law passed in Illinois, as referred to before, actually does circumvent this scenario by forcing any parent of a child content creator to make a trust and deposit a portion of the money earned from said content creation into that trust for only the child to then be given access to once they have reached adulthood. More good news on that is that yes, quite a few states have actually begun trying to pass laws to do essentially the same thing here as the Illinois law, which all sounds good and wonderful until you realize that all of these corporations actually do want to exploit children. And I know that sounds dystopian and ridiculous and out of line with reality, but it's not hyperbole. In fact, there are people sitting in our Congress right now who actually want to roll back child labor laws federally. Even worse, this article by the Economic Policy Institute indicates that there are in fact 28 states right now that have already proposed legislation that rolls back child labor laws, and 12 states that have already successfully enacted them. Hey, guy that raises alarm bells, I don't really know what the protocol is for ringing the alarm bells, but I feel like maybe this is one of those times where we should probably do that. Now, I know we keep doing this bit of poor little Timmy being thrown into the mines, and really, it's meant to be a silly caricature of the real world. Unfortunately, the real world is beyond parody. If lobbyists and corporations got their way, there would be children working in coal mines again. How do I know this? Because businesses are already trying to do this. They're just doing it illegally. Take, for example, this CBS News article about a teenager who was illegally operating dangerous equipment in a sawmill in Wisconsin. On June 29th of 2023, Michael Schulz was fatally injured attempting to fix a machine he wasn't legally allowed to be operating. He died 2 days later in the hospital. He had only recently turned 16 just a few weeks prior. This should be a sobering wake-up call. But the momentum is clearly on the side of child labor, because this same article points to a statistic released by the Labor Department indicating that child labor violations in 2023 were up 13% from the prior year.
And if all of that wasn't enough to concern you, illegal employment of children has gone up 88% since 2019.
Pair that with just how many child labor laws are being proposed right now, and we're met with a terrifying notion. We are barreling straight toward being okay with actively putting children in harm's way in the name of increasing profits. If we're willing to exploit children in harmful environments, of course we're willing to exploit them digitally. If you want to fix the gaming industry and the amount of cost everything has begun to rack up and the amount of unethical practices that are continuing to show up almost daily, it seems like now, you have to stop consuming, plain and simple. For years and years, we've looked at the deeper and deeper monetization methods that games have begun to use, and it's only gotten worse, stacked on worse, stacked on worse. Gaming is an excellent method of escapism. It really is. Playing Call of Duty with the boys after a hard day's work really can be a good time. But when the bar for quality goes down and the cost goes up, when do we stop and say enough? When do we sit down with ourselves and ask, what am I actually getting out of this? Believe it or not, the games industry may actually be in the beginning steps of a massive correction, which means it's possible that we're already seeing people get fed up with these massive titles and are stopping handing them money. But it's also possible that the industry is actually destroying itself. Business Insider actually recently reported on the gaming industry's current problems, and they seem to think that the lack of actual competition is causing the game industry to stagnate. They also believe that the colossally overinflated budgets of these games is really driving expenses through the roof. But I mean, technically that's true. Sure, games are getting more and more expensive to make, and sure, more and more people were being hired at companies during COVID. That would certainly lead to inflated costs. But adversely, there's a reason why there's massive layoffs happening in the games industry at record numbers. Spoiler alert, it's not the amount of money games are making, because games are raking it in right now. The reality is that large publishers don't want to pay developers to work. Instead, they want to pay themselves. And that's abundantly clear when you consider the amount the average worker costs at a company versus the amount that CEOs at most of the major publishers are raking in. Seems like there's plenty of money flowing. It's just all going into a handful of people's pockets. Funny how that always seems to happen. Call of Duty, Fortnite, and any other number of games out there all have an express purpose of extracting money from the player. And it's clear that any and every means necessary to do so will be explored. I know it's been said before time and time again, but if you're waiting around for your favorite franchises owned by a massive corporation to get better, stop wasting your time. There is nothing that will be done to fix Call of Duty. It won't ever go back to the way it used to be. It will continue to take as many shortcuts as possible, hiring as little devs as possible, while charging you as much as possible for content already in the game. I mean, for Christ's sake, Call of Duty has already shown that they're willing to incorporate pay-to-win elements. Hell, back in Modern Warfare 2019, they tested the water with this too. They had a KD tracker cosmetic. Why is that significant? Specifically, because they removed the KD statistic from the match stats. Specifically, so they could resell it to you as a cosmetic. These people never look back. They always look forward. They sit there and laboriously come up with ways to exploit people for money, and they use incredibly questionable methods to do so. I mean, they hire actual psychologists to do research on their games and figure out how they can manipulate people into subconsciously wanting to purchase more unnecessary things. I'm not kidding. That's actually true. Here's a source for it. We banned subliminal messaging decades ago. So how the hell is all of this even legal? Oh, and if Farmville didn't make it clear enough, despite Call of Duty charging you for its service, they are still collecting your data and using it against you. They are at the liberty of disclosing that information any way they so choose, which is almost certainly taking advantage of those handy-dandy psychologists to figure out how best to target you for monetization. In the case of Call of Duty, you are paying for the service while simultaneously providing a service that you are likely not even realizing that you are consenting to. Oh, but you could just opt out of data collection, right? Because if you do, you aren't allowed to play the game. That all sounds pretty bad, right? Like really pretty bad. Not only are you providing them with a service by playing their game, you're not even allowed to decline providing the service, or your access to the service is revoked. Honestly, it sounds like the kind of thing you should want to sue over. Really, we all should. Oh, but what's this? Activision's terms of use says you're not allowed to file a class action lawsuit against them. Wow, that's so cool. Isn't that fucking neat? Written in your mandatory contract, because calling it a terms and conditions / privacy policy is frankly disingenuous, is a legal requirement preventing you from suing the very company that is extorting you for information without really even elaborating on it. Technically, you are well within your rights to read your terms and conditions as well as the privacy policy within the agreements, but if you read every single agreement that any tech company wanted you to read, you'd never have any time left to do anything. The lengths that publishers are willing to go to take advantage of players is quite literally infinite. So how far are you willing to go to get them to stop? There comes a time in most people's lives where the comfort slowly starts to be outweighed by the inconvenient. You might not even notice it, but suddenly, the crunch of the lettuce in that burger is a bit crunchier than it used to be. Those crackers crumble a bit more than they used to. The TV remote dies quicker than it used to. The chair creaks faster than before. The car breaks down more than it used to. The hospital goes from curing your crippling injury to crippling you financially. You lay there in your firm padding, dreading the moment that bill comes through. Your comfort has been outweighed by your inconvenience. It's never a simple matter of abrupt changes. It always starts small. An extra 20 cents for chips? Becomes these cost twice as much as they did 4 years ago. But the manner that such things are introduced is losing its subtle edge and is moving into borderline highway robbery. Those comforts you seek, they're gonna cost you. It's brilliant, really. But what's more brilliant is the idea of saying no. It's really that simple, in theory. But we as consumers have been trained to be subservient to our blessed overlords so much that we bat no eyes at the ideas of expense. Things cost money, and so shall I pay. Fuck that. These comforts you seek are not worth the inconvenience. The expense alone has far succeeded the comfort, but you should also ask yourself whether you truly are gaining comfort or pleasure from the things you spend on. There's no endgame for those that hold the purse strings. There's only more. What solution do I propose? Stop buying these games. I know the social utility that these games provide. Trust me, I get it, but it's just not worth it. There are a million things you could be doing and games you could be playing with friends that are in fact amazing experiences and not even slightly exploitative in nature. Take Litho Company or Deep Rock Galactic, for example. The game industry is a huge place, and publishers spend a fortune trying to convince you that the 3 games that they all push are the only place you need to be playing things. Don't listen to them. Call of Duty isn't going to get better. Halo isn't going to get better. Whatever the hell Ubisoft is planning on shitting out isn't going to be any better than any of this either. When you provide the publisher with money for the game, you provide them money for the cosmetics. You provide them money for the services, the battle pass, the subscription, the season pass, the level skips, the DLC. At what point does the publisher provide you a service? Is Call of Duty really providing you with a service anymore? I understand that there is a multiplayer component that allows you to play the game, but how much is that actually facilitating the amount of money that you're sinking into the game? Do you consider Modern Warfare 3's multiplayer satisfactory? Did it meet your expectations? Did Warzone? Do you think the next Call of Duty has any concern about meeting your expectations? Or perhaps will it facilitate the bare minimum of your expectations, all while potentially even lowering your standards through passive changes? Just the other day, I was having a conversation with my 14-year-old nephew. We were discussing this video that I'm making and the topics that it tackles, and we began discussing Fortnite Crew, the subscription-based service that Fortnite provides, when suddenly, my nephew began to just explain why he believes that Fortnite Crew is actually something that is really useful for new players of the game. He then began to quite literally describe in detail all the great benefits that the subscription offers and why it's so helpful. I was dumbfounded. My nephew was selling me on Fortnite Crew without even realizing it. It's incredible because the very thing I'm trying to spotlight was happening right in front of my eyes. Writing this video has truly made me realize these companies have hacked our brains and convinced us that we need to spend far more than we actually do on these titles, whether that be time or money. It's blatantly unethical. I mean, hiring psychologists. I know I said it already, but that is sickening. There's no real point where they will actually draw a line and decide to stop pushing the consumer more and more. We can't really stop them even if we somehow manage to boycott them or convinced enough people to abstain from playing. They'd simply double down, fire more staff, deepen their monetization, and they would very likely survive. Unless we put real pressure on them. I'm not talking about voting with your wallet. I'm not talking about getting a hashtag going. I'm talking about the last time that we won against publishers, when we somehow came together and reined them in and got them to quit a really terrible monetization scheme. Remember loot boxes? When's the last time you saw one of those funny little surprise mechanics pop up? You may have seen some recently, but chances are, if you're watching this, that you really haven't. Because admittedly, while loot boxes do still exist in games, they've mostly been relegated to mobile games. Why has that happened though? Because of regulatory pressure. Just look at this games industry article showing all the different places where loot boxes have regulation of some sort. And I mean, it's pretty easy to see that we scared the shit out of publishers. I remember the hearing that EA did with the FTC, where the FTC pretty much just clowned on this double-speaking lawyer who dared to try and say that loot boxes weren't gambling, but once again, surprise mechanics. Not to mention the time that on the Star Wars Battlefront 2 subreddit, one of the DICE devs had the audacity to use the phrase, "The intent with loot boxes is to provide players with a sense of pride and accomplishment." Fuck off! That certainly didn't temper things. Now look, I know, a good chunk of you probably heard the word regulation and immediately started clutching your Atlas Shrugged copy that you keep hidden safely under your pillow next to your M1911. I get it. But even just applying pressure to EA in this context was enough to scare them away from loot boxes in most of their titles. I mean, the US didn't even end up taking any action. They didn't file any legislation against this mechanic. But while I don't necessarily know that it's quite as cut and dry, what I do know is nobody is more oppressed than gamers. Okay, look, I pissed off the right, so I needed to even the score by pissing off the left too. Now everyone hates me. See? Fairness doctrine be damned. I voted for Jeb anyway. But my point is, when gamers really want to, they can actually get shit done. If we could just rise up out of our $700 gaming chairs and scrape the Cool Ranch dust from our cheeks, we might just be able to make a compelling case about the completely unethical way that games are being monetized more and more. If you're too lazy, or hell, if you don't know how to reach out to your local representatives, don't worry, I've got you covered. I am really interested in getting the ball rolling here, and that means I want you to have to do as little as possible to help shed some light on how dark this industry has become. You should be annoying the shit out of any politicians that are within your reach. This means your local and state representatives, as well as your local/state senators, your governor, and the president himself. Sound like a lot of work? Kinda does, doesn't it? Too bad it's not, because I've already got a template built for you. Here it is. Take a peek. Pinned in the comments is my post with all the available resources you'll need to reach out to your local representatives. All you need to do is make a copy of this template here, put your name on here, and send it to your favorite politicians. Don't know how to get into contact with politicians? I sure do. Check it out. This site will show you all who represent you, locally and federally. You should send this template to all of them. Oh, and I've also set up a petition on change.org for you to go to as well. Make sure to support that. Oh, but if that weren't enough, for my European friends, I've also got you covered. This same template is fine to use here, but if you're in the UK, I recommend reaching out to your MPs and statesmen using this tool to find their information. It'll also be in the pinned comment. If you're within the EU, you can use this tool here, which will also be in the pinned comment. If you're outside the EU and outside the UK, just use the template and get creative. I believe in you. Here's a list of countries outside the EU. If you made the list, congratulations! I have no idea how to help you. I'm sure you'll figure something out. Oh, but if you're one of my wacky Canadian friends, good news. You can use this tool to find out who represents you locally and federally. Once again, you'll find that in the pinned comment. If you want to see changes in the game industry, you should do this. If not, just think about it either way. And please don't shoot me or cancel me. Okay, fine. I'll pick a side. I can't in good conscience pretend to not have a political affiliation. I voted for Bernie and Hillary and Biden. I just wanted to say, because I just finished up the credits, I wanted to say thank you to anybody who stuck around through this entire thing. Thank you to anybody who, got anything out of this whatsoever. I appreciate you. And this has been so arduous and stressful, frankly. I've never put this much time or effort into probably anything in my entire life before. So I really hope you got something out of it. Even if you hated it, thank you for the engagement, sucker. Thank you, guys. Like, I know it's the cliche thing to say, but this video means a lot to me. I hope it meant a lot to you. At least I could impart that into this video. But if I didn't, it's not a big deal. I get it. I do. Otherwise, I don't know. I'm just kind of rambling here. Thank you so much. And see you next time, I guess. Oh, and there is one last thing I did want to say. To my brother, Shane, who is no longer here, I wish you could see me now. And I miss you, dude. A lot. Thank you.